It's Ramsey Dewey over here in Shanghai, China. Welcome to another edition of Q&A with the Coach. Today we have a question from Camille Martinez, who says, I have a question for you. Good, I have an answer for you, Camille. As a martial artist, why should someone care about Muay Thai? What sets it apart and makes it important? I guess I am asking you to market the fighting style to me since I have never practiced it. Okay. Why should you care about Muay Thai? Well, if you don't care about it, why should you? You've never practiced it. Have you ever seen it? Okay, maybe go watch a Muay Thai fight. Watch a couple of them. And then you can decide, is this something I'm actually interested in? You may or may not know this about me, but I do not care for the sport of American football. A lot of Americans do. A lot of Americans love it. It's very popular in the United States of America. But I never cared for the sport of football. Didn't play it. Didn't watch it. It just doesn't interest me at all, like zero. I can appreciate the training. I can appreciate the athleticism. I appreciate what athletes do. All kinds of athletes. I think it's all kinds of awesome when people get out there and train, but it just doesn't call to me, the sport of American football. I've tried watching football games. I saw a couple of them, and I was like, yep, just doesn't do anything for me. I'm not into it. I had a question a few years back. I never finished recording the answer because I had some technical problems with my camera. And this guy said, I hang out with a lot of UFC fans. They really like MMA and they really want me to like MMA, but I just don't. And he was way into pro wrestling, and he says, yeah, I know pro wrestling, it's a performance, it's scripted fighting, and a lot of people make fun of it, but I like it. But I don't like MMA. But I feel this pressure like I need to like MMA in order to fit in with my group of friends, and I feel conflicted. What do I do? And there's a very simple answer for that. Do you, my friend, do you? I'm not here to sell you anything. Unless, of course, you want to go to my sponsor's website, xmartial.com, and use my code Ramsey10 for 10% off everything. In that case, buy everything. Helps this channel out a lot. But other than that, I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm pretty transparent about that. After I just give you a commercial. But I'm not trying to sell you on Muay Thai. I'm not trying to sell you on MMA or Jiu-Jitsu or anything else that I'm interested in. I like it. I think it's easier to relate to other people in many ways when they understand what those things are. But you know who else doesn't care about Muay Thai or MMA or Jiu-Jitsu or any of these other things that I love to do? My wife. She doesn't care. She has zero interest in this stuff. And we've been married for 16 wonderful years. Because there's a whole lot more to life than kicking and punching and grappling and clinching and fighting and training. As important to me as getting out there and training is, there's more to life than just that, friends. This is probably a pretty lousy commercial if you came in with the expectation of being sold on the art of Muay Thai. You're either going to like it or not. One of the reasons I love mixed martial arts so much is because if I focus on a single emphasis style for too long, I get burned out on it. If I do just boxing, for example, years back when I was still fighting professionally, I was doing a training camp, and I did 3 months of just boxing for this stand-up fight, just boxing. And I got so burned out on boxing after that. I was like, ugh, Boxing. I never want to see another boxing glove as long as I live. I love boxing. It's something I enjoy, and I do it frequently, and I do it consistently. But is it all I do? No, because, man, that is just... What is the equivalent of appetite fatigue? But for your tolerance for training in a specific combat sport. Do you know what appetite fatigue is? It's like when the law of diminishing marginal utility kicks in. Ah, that's the word I was looking for. The law of diminishing marginal utility. Yeah, like a peanut butter sandwich. If you like peanut butter sandwiches, when you're hungry, that's pretty good. Yeah, that'll hit the spot. And then maybe you'll think, hey, I want a second peanut butter sandwich. And so you eat that and you're like, yeah, okay. Wasn't as good as the first one, but, and then someone offers you a third one. You're like, a third one? You try to eat it and you're like, I'm full. I'm all peanut butter sandwiched out right now. No more. And then they give you a fourth one. Oh, man. This is reminding me of a story. When I lived in Argentina, I was a missionary for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints way back in 1997 to 1999 in the outskirts of Buenos Aires, Argentina, in the Provincia de Buenos Aires. Not in the capital city itself, but like in the slums outside of the city. So I spent 2 years over there. And every 24th of May, there is a celebration. Argentina has 2 national holidays, one of which is on the 24th of May. And in this particular town, I don't know if it's nationwide, but in this particular town, they celebrated by making a large pot of this very traditional Argentinian stew called locro. And they loved it. But if you're from the United States of America, I'm being careful not to say just America, because if you say that to Argentinians, they'll be like, Argentina también es América. Argentina's America too. Urgh. You North Americans? To which I reply, North America is not just the United States. Got you right there. Anyway, they make this big pot of stew. It's called locro. And from the perspective of somebody who was born and raised in the United States, it's gross. Unless you grew up in a radically different culture where they eat that stuff. It contains hog jowls, pig ears, pig feet, cow stomach, intestines, tripe, chicken gizzards, all the insides of the animal that citizens of the United States of America generally don't eat. And it's all mixed into this giant pot of squash and corn. Probably the only time I ever saw squash and corn eaten in Argentina was on the 24th of May. Anyway, so this is a story about how the law of diminishing marginal utility and appetite fatigue, which in this case are synonymous, kicked in a big way. So, I'm a foreigner in this country, and these folks invite me to this gathering where they have this giant cauldron of locro, this gut stew, on the fire. And I am the honored guest, and they give me a big old bowl of it. And I'm like, well, thank you. I'm trying to be polite, right? Because I had the impression that the polite thing to do was, of course, eat everything your hosts offered you. And so I did. I ate every last scrap of this gut stew, and I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. It made me feel queasy, but I ate it. And I said, okay, thank you very much. I'm done. They said, look, he likes it. Get him more. They brought me another bowl with big old chunks of mondongo. In Argentina, that's cow stomach. I know some Latin American countries use the word mondongo differently, sometimes for like chicken guts, but in Argentina, it's cow stomach. And it had big old chunks of cow stomach the size of my face just floating around in there, and it's chewy, and it's like, again, didn't fit my palate. I didn't like it, but I ate it. They're like, oh, look, he loves it. Get him a bigger bowl. So they bring a giant bowl of this stuff, and it's got like pig ears with the fur still on it floating around, and I'm like, no, please, no. Why? Why am I so polite? Why? So I try to choke this down, and one thing I did not realize about the Argentinian culture, at least in this particular town, among these particular people, at that particular time, was that there's this idea that you feed your guests and you feed them well, and if they clear their plate, you fill it up again. Because obviously, they're hungry. And that just kept happening. And they kept filling it up and giving me more. And boy, did the law of diminishing marginal returns ever kick in. There are much better ways to cook pig ears, by the way. There are much better ways to cook pig feet. And there are much better ways to cook mondongo, I gotta say. Besides locro, but I don't know. They love it there. It's their thing. Let them have it. Aguante Argentina. What question were we even answering, man? Oh, yeah. Why should you like Muay Thai? Why should you care about Muay Thai? I mean, it's a fun sport. Man, if you... I was about to say something about Lumpini Boxing Stadium, but I don't even know if it's still open right now because... You know, they closed down the original and they built a new one, and then the new one got closed for COVID, and I don't know, I haven't heard any updates since then, so I don't know what's happening. If any friends are in Bangkok listening, what's going on with Lumpini Boxing Stadium? Does it still exist? Is it still open? I heard a few months back that they might close the doors forever. I don't know. But if you had the chance to sit in those front row seats at the old Lumpini Boxing Stadium back in the day and watch those fights and sit so close you could smell the Thai ointments on the fighters and get splashed with the sweat and the blood. It's gross, I know, but and just hear the crowd go nuts every time they clinch and they throw a knee, and see all those folks up in the nosebleed seats placing their bets with their little slips of paper, just going nuts like, ah. It's electric. It was exciting. It was pretty amazing. And I mean, I loved Muay Thai already before I had that experience, but that experience, it's this unique snapshot in time that unfortunately will never happen again in that same way at that same place again. I mean, Muay Thai, it's not going anywhere anytime soon. There are plenty of stadiums out there in Thailand and plenty of Muay Thai competitions worldwide and so on. But, yeah, man, it's fun. But again, if that's all you do, for me anyway, the law of diminishing marginal utility kicks in, because once in a while you just have to double leg a fool, put him on his face, grind his ears into the dirt, and make him tap out and or say, "Uncle." There are lots of different ways to have fun in combat sports, my friends. Muay Thai is just one of them. Thanks for watching. Now get out there and train.